Mitch Albom is here. He has sold 35 million books worldwide, most notably Tuesdays with Morrie. The new book, The First Phone Call from Heaven, is available now, and we're very pleased to have you here. Now,
Thank
for
you.
purposes of full disclosure, I bought Tuesdays with Morrie back in, I think, 1997, read it, and then bought probably 20 more books for family and friends. So I'm part of that 35 million.
Okay.
You've done a lot since then, but
that's
I had
not
to
usually
ask
what
you.
they mean by full disclosure, but okay.
But knowing that, you've done so much since then, but you're still really known for that particular work. Is that okay with you still?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm proud to be affiliated with Tuesdays with Morrie. Of all the things that I've done or written, I believe it was the thing I did most for the right reason. It was written to pay Morrie's medical bills. That's all we ever intended. I didn't sit there trying to write a bestseller. In fact, I thought, this will come out. They only printed 20,000 copies. Nobody expected it to sell. Most people turned it down when we tried to get it to help pay for his bills. And I was going to go back to sports writing. So everything that has happened since has been a blessing from that book, and I am absolutely fine knowing that that's probably going to be the biggest thing I've ever written in my life, or the most well-received.
First Phone Call from Heaven does have some through themes that we've seen in your other works. Death and loss and the kind of longing to reconnect with those that are departed.
Right.
Tell me why that's so important in your work, those themes.
Well, I mean, I think ever since Tuesdays with Morrie, those have been the things that have sort of fascinated me, No different than if John Grisham was sitting here and you'd say, well, why is there always a lawyer in your books? I mean, it's kind of the world that I work in. And but I don't write about death. I mean, I do take a little exception to that. To me, people who write about death write books about serial killers, and they describe the throat being slashed and the heart being pulled out and the blood covering everybody. That's death. I write about life. It's just that frequently I use either the specter of death or a death to reflect back, because most people don't tend to think about what's really precious in life until you remind them that they're not going to have it forever. So that it's a mirror for me, and it is in this new book as well.
Give us a little bit of a plot summary here.
Okay. The short version is a small town in northern Michigan one day wakes up and the phones start ringing, and it's people calling from heaven, and it's their voices, and they're saying what heaven is like. Only it only happens to a handful of people, and it only happens in this one town, nowhere else on the planet. And when the news leaks out that this is happening, people start slowly converging onto this town. First, other people hear about these miracles, and then the media starts getting in, and it starts getting bigger and bigger. And at the same time, there's a guy who lives there who's kind of our protagonist. He's heartbroken. His wife has died, and he's raising his little 7-year-old son. And his 7-year-old starts carrying around a toy phone saying, Daddy, when is Mommy going to call us? Because everyone else is getting calls. And he gets so angry at this because he doesn't want people giving his son false hope, because he doesn't believe in anything anymore, and he doesn't want his son to. So he sets out to sort of prove that this is a hoax. And it sets up this sort of converging storylines where the deeper he gets into it and the closer he gets to maybe proving it is a hoax, the bigger the story gets, the larger it is, until finally culminates just a couple days before Christmas. There's going to be an international broadcast live of a phone call from heaven. Is once and for all going to prove that there is an afterlife. And just as it's about to happen, he seems to have stumbled on what the truth is of it, and I'll stop myself there.
Yeah, please do.
So,
I've read the book, and I don't want to give it away either. So I can only imagine in your daily life, people are coming up to you all the time, talking to you about similar circumstances, people who are dying in their lives and so forth. And I wanted to share one with you and wondered what you might think of it. So I have a wonderful friend who has a great family. He's highly successful. He's a defense attorney, renowned in fact. His son is a war hero. And yet he said to me not too long ago, Andy, I'm ready to die because I want to see my mother again. And I'm wondering if you hear these kinds of stories all the time and whether they resonate with you.
Well, I hear them all the time. I think when you write Tuesdays with Morrie, as Amy Tan once told me, you're about to become everybody's rabbi, and you do to some degree. But that was part of the inspiration for this book, because I've met people who have said things like, my daughter died, and I went into her room after the funeral, and I sat on the bed, and I was just crying, and all of a sudden, her picture fell off the bureau and it landed on the floor, and I know that was her. She was sending me a message. Now, I could bring in a physicist or 10 scientists who could explain, no, there was actually a little shuffle in the earth, or no, the thing was pitched, or sooner or later a picture is going to fall. Wouldn't make a difference. To her, that was a miracle. To her, that was a message. And my view on it is, if it's a miracle to you, it's a miracle. doesn't have to be to everybody else. If you believe it somehow fortifies your belief or your strength or your faith, that's enough.
I'm sure you've lost loved ones. How has all of this work and the experiences you have meeting people on the road and elsewhere affected your thought process in regards to your own mortality?
I think I'm a little less afraid of death for myself than I was certainly before I encountered Morrie. I've just seen so much of it. It's inevitable that you come to accept it. I haven't, you would think I would, but I haven't gotten any more used to losing my own loved ones. It's still hard. It's still heartbreaking. I still don't want it to happen. My mother suffered multiple strokes about 3 years ago when I began to think about this book and lost the ability to speak. And she was such a whirlwind talker. I mean, all my communication skills I get from her, and all of a sudden she was silent. And while she's still alive, and I can visit her and hold her hand, I'm not sure if she knows it's me or not, but her body's here. But without the voice, it's just not the same experience. And I find myself thinking back to when email was invented, and I started saying to her, you got to get this thing email because I can send you these email messages and we can call. And she said, I don't want that. I said, why not? She said, because you won't call me anymore and I won't hear your voice. And I thought, oh, she's so old-fashioned. And now she's exactly right. You know, that human voice is so precious. I know people who save cell phone messages from people who have died because they just want to hear their voice. Even if the thing is, I'll meet you at 6 over at Target. You know, that's the message, but they want to listen to it over and over. So I took that concept of the voice and I mixed it in with sort of the history of the telephone and a few other things, and it became this beautiful, I think, really beautiful story about how we hang on to even the thinnest of things that connect us to people. And I am absolutely no different. If you think Writing Tuesdays with Morrie, these books gives me some kind of like free pass at the sensitivity of dying or losing someone, you're wrong. I cry just as much as everybody else.
Mitch Albom, the book is The First Phone Call from Heaven. Thanks for coming to the Wall Street Journal.
My pleasure. Hey, it was
Thanks,
fun.
Mitch. Great. Thank you.